Okay, it's time to talk about nervous system regulation. The reason it's so important on your healing journey is because you have to be your own self advocate when it comes to your needs. I'm talking to adults here, so we're not going to be blaming our spouses. We're not going to be blaming our parents. It's time for you to know what you need and how to get it. So when you're feeling elevated, you can ask yourself, what do I need in this moment? And you have to be able to differentiate your needs from all the energies and all the people around you, which can be really difficult, which is why a lot of times most of us need to kind of go within. We need to quiet down. We need to um, not be as social for a little while so that we can hear ourselves, hear our bodies, and be able to take care of ourselves. So I'm going to go through the methods that I used to regulate my own nervous system. So, okay, I created this entire chart because I'm a freak like that, and things make sense to me when they're in visual representation form. So for me, it all kind of started with neurodiversity, is learning a little bit more about my neurotype. I don't have any sort of diagnosis. I just know what's going on inside my mind. For those of you who are kind of early on in this journey, there's the concept of neurotypical and the concept of neurodivergent. Typical is what psychologists designate as the most common form of thinking and neurotype, and neurodivergent is the concept of divergent neurotypes that function or think differently. We're talking ADHD, we're talking autism. The problem is that neurotypical was based upon white dudes in like the early 20th century. So neurodivergent became this kind of catch-all for anything that wasn't this. So for example, if you're a white guy but you have so if you're a white guy that went through PTSD, or if you're a woman who has had a child and has some sort of postpartum situation going on, that moves you into this. So you could have a situation that occurs in your lifetime that moves you from neurotypical to neurodivergent. You can also be born this way, meaning genetic predisposition, like your parents have it or your grandparents have it. ADHD and autism are extremely genetically linked. So those are some pretty common ones, which is why you're hearing about it right now. Social model is in here because the society that we live in is trying to develop ways of kind of bridging these gaps in here through accommodations. But social accommodations can only go so far. You have to do it yourself. So this is kind of what neurodiversity looks like in reality. Is nobody is 100% anything. We all have similar traits, just sometimes those traits are more exacerbated depending upon the situation. For example, we all have sensory sensitivities, just some of us might have sensory sensitivities to the point that it limits our ability to function, right? So we all have these things and we can move up and down this depending upon how we regulate our nervous system as well as what our current experiences are. How do we regulate? Nervous system. Window of tolerance. A window of tolerance is your ability to handle the shit that's going on in your day to day. So, for example, you start out your morning and you're running late to work and it's really stressful, but then you get to work and everything's fine. You're working for a while and then you're starting to get tired. And so you need a little bit more stimulation. So you get up and you go talk to your coworkers, you have a lunch break, you're revitalized. Now you're working hard, 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 but now something happens and your boss is screaming at you, or there's a screaming baby on the airplane and you feel like you're about to lose your shit. That's when a meltdown occurs. That's when we start to experience things like anger, violence towards yourself or towards others, outbursts, and crying. That is when we have become dysregulated. Usually, after a dysregulated state, we have some sort of boomerang effect where we go through some sort of a shutdown. We become numb, We go nonverbal, meaning we don't want to talk. We escape into our coping mechanisms like reading, video games, drugs. A lot of it is maladaptive daydreaming, disassociation, or we just sleep until we are back up to regulated. These red dotted lines here indicate that not all of us have a wide window of tolerance. If you have, say, for example, a physical condition like chronic pain, fibromyalgia, something like that, your window of tolerance is going to be smaller. So, like, for example, where the rest of us might be within our window of tolerance in here, for somebody who's waking up in pain, they're dysregulated here, they're dysregulated here, they're dysregulated here, they're dysregulated here. Does that make sense? So we're seeing more of these meltdowns and shutdowns. So what we're trying to do is when you're in your constant fight or flight, or when you are constantly dysregulated, that's letting you know that your window of tolerance is very narrow. Sometimes we can control that, sometimes we cannot. But the idea is, let's figure it out. Let's figure out if we can open up this window of tolerance so that we can navigate our day and help ourselves regulate ourselves so that we stay within our window of tolerance. We're not losing our shit. We're not going into shutdown. We are present and enjoying our lives. The concept in autism is things around support needs, high support needs and low support needs. I'm not saying that this is for autism only. I'm saying that this is what you need to understand about yourself. If you find that you are a high support needs person, that means you might need medication, you might need therapy, you might need caretakers to help take care of you, and you might need physical supports like wheelchairs or whatever. Low support needs means in order to regulate yourself, you might need less. You might need just breathing, talking to friends or a therapist, taking a walk or a hug, those types of things. So understanding if you are having a high support needs day or a low support needs day, if you are generally high support needs or generally low support needs. But the idea is that you have to kind of listen to your body throughout the day. If you're starting to snip at your kids, that means you're starting to exit your window of tolerance. If you're having a great time and being your authentic self, you're probably somewhere in here. So we need to figure out how to regulate our own nervous system, which means we need to understand our nervous system, which is when we're going to come over to our nervous system switchboard. I'm going to go into a part 2 here.